Welcome to My Dog Will Eat My Face, episode 43. In this episode, I want to share a sort of viewpoint that I have of myself, and it might sound kind of strange, but it's one way that I handle my day-to-day self and manage the loss of everything that I once had. In my study, I have many books, many that cover the rise and fall of civilizations. Of course, I have Gibbon's Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. I also have The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, just for a light midnight read. And I'm not going to comment on how good or evil these civilizations were. I'm just going to comment on the similarity in the rise and the fall. And I see myself, my very being, in the same camp. I had risen as a person. I gained some notoriety in my career. I gained economic independence. I achieved quite a bit. And then it began to fall. And break apart piece by piece. And now I feel myself to be some sort of custodian of a skeletal empire of what was once myself. Trying to maintain what once was, knowing that in the end it will all but disappear. It will go the way of the Romans, it will go the way of the British, it will go the way of the Nazis. I too will fall and crumble into nothingness. It's not a way to view yourself. Almost a third person. I wouldn't say it's healthy or unhealthy, but it's one of the ways I've kind of risen in my life. And maintain myself, and now manage my decline. So today I want to talk about what that means to me. What will I have left in the long run? What do I have left even today? And how it compares to the loss of empire. It's an interesting mind play to view yourself that way. I kind of recommend it because it can yield some interesting results. But first off today, I want to talk about what skeletal remains exist over once my life. In this case, I'm referring to my life as my empire. And I will detail what will then fall apart, yet to come, and how it will finally vanquish from this earth. Oh, what once was my vast empire that I built for myself. I struggled very hard to achieve success in my life. And tried very hard to put my stamp on this earth. And a lot of it is still there. As I've said before, I was very successful in my career, which we all know means income to some extent, a satisfactory level of income. That, combined with my love of the arts, made for a pretty good living space for myself. I didn't use IKEA, let's put it that way. No dissing IKEA. And it's all still there. I moved into my current place so that I could be close to my workplace that has since dismissed me. I'm still there. You might ask why. The physical ability to move is so far outside the realm of my possibilities that I really have no choice but to stay. And that's why I'm stuck in this apartment. Even with help, I couldn't possibly physically move. I couldn't put books away because I've become that weak. So I have a full office, almost a library, filled with books. I could pick up 1, 2 maybe, but no more. And it's all testament to my love of reading and the arts and the money I had to afford such things. I still live in this quote-unquote luxury apartment. That's not my term. That's what the building calls it. So blame them if that's inaccurate. But anyway, I still live in that luxury apartment as though nothing ever changed. I'm on the top floor of the building, Every room is very well decorated. With different styles of furniture. In some cases, Queen Anne furniture, which is strange. It's really not my kind, but a lot of that does exist. My office is all mahogany. Dark wood. Very masculine. My kitchen is very modern. Granite countertops that now threaten me every time I walk past them. Because if I pass out walking near them, and my head comes in contact with that countertop, it's an ugly sight. It's happened before. I came to on my kitchen floor in a pool of blood, not knowing what happened. I simply passed out, which is something I'm prone to nowadays, and cracked my head on the granite that once was so beautiful, and I could have friends over for cocktails and this very nice modern kitchen. Now it's like a death trap for me. Occasionally I still decorate some things here and there, but not like I used to. I just simply don't have the money. And that's the fundamental decay of my empire, which I'll touch on within the next segment. Much more beyond the skeleton of a home, and I probably should have started with this fact, is the simple loss of income. I once worked full time. Now I'm dependent upon disability payments. A substantial decline in what I once could afford and what I can now afford. It changed so much that I had to apply for bankruptcy. As sad as that is. My very first home in my life, outside of my parents' home, was a home I bought at the age of 23. I was financially very well set on a good road. And I maintained that good road for the vast majority of my life. Until the end, when I was faced with an exorbitant divorce, which maxed out all my credit cards and led to my financial demise, to where I had to declare bankruptcy. It is a far cry from where I once was. I had to go from spending whatever money I wanted, making whatever I wanted, investing in gold bullion and preparing for the worst, I thought. All of it leading to be not enough. To where in the end I had to prove to a court that I literally had no more money left to give to my creditors. So I still kept the apartment and my belongings, my individual belongings, my little pieces of artwork, things that made me me back then, books, things of that nature. But to put it lightly, the party was over. I can no longer indulge. And that's where I am today. I've gone from being very comfortably well off to being very uncomfortably poor. And losing all my finances. And having to live day by day with what I can afford. My biggest expense now is just food, so I can eat. How sad is that? That crumbled all around me. And the savings I had were not enough. The plans I had were not enough. The gold bullion I invested in was not enough to save me from that catastrophe. It just rolled and rolled like a wave over my life, taking away everything I earned. And speaking of which, with respect to taking away everything I earned and losing my job, I lost my professional accreditations that I worked so hard to attain. I'll get into that a little bit more in the next segment. But they don't even exist as a skeleton anymore. They're just gone. It's really quite sad. So, I might as well talk about that loss now. When I was working, I held professional accreditation in 2 different professional organizations. That accreditation took tremendous amounts of work and dedication to earn. In both cases, I had to basically fly to another city, live there for a week, study in my apartment at night, and then sit for 2 separate 4-hour exams back to back to achieve the accreditation. Those handing out the exams told the class not to worry. It's not too different from the bar exam. That did not decrease my worry. That made me worry all the more. But I passed all the exams and got the accreditation, maintained continuing educational credits, and actually had 2 accreditations and not just 1. That was pretty rare to come by in my industry. And it was something I was quite proud of. But with my job first going on disability and then being terminated, I could not maintain the continuing education to keep that accreditation. Some of the continuing education require travel and in-person training, and I certainly could not do that at the very least. So, something that I've worked very hard for, studied for at least a week, certainly more beforehand as well, studying the laws of this country. A great achievement, a great feather in my cap, just decayed and disappeared and was taken away from me. And that actually hurt me more than a lot of losses, because it's something I worked so hard for. Something that I so diligently, so mentally, so stridently worked for could just so easily disappear. And it frankly broke my heart. To me, I was no longer the person I once was, which might sound harsh, but that's how I felt. That's how I feel. I'm no longer the person I once was. I've lost my qualifications. And I'll never get them back. That part of my so-called empire's already gone forever. Along with all my joys in life, too, which was the greatest loss. And something I've detailed already ad nauseum throughout this podcast. I've lost the ability to leave my apartment, being hooked up to 18 liters of oxygen. I can't go out to dinner. I can't travel. I can't be on a plane. I can't leave the house. I'm stuck in that apartment I chose all those years ago because it was close to work. How ironic. How ironic. And finally, I've lost independence. And I'm going to lose more independence, I'm told, by the doctors and by the nurses. That terrifies me more than anything. All my life, I've been fiercely independent. I strove to be independent. It was a central tenet of my life. And to lose that is to lose myself altogether. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. I do have a relatively benign test run about to occur, actually. Tomorrow, my father is visiting me to help me out around the home to do things for me, to do things that I can't do, and to lay eyes on me so if I fall, if I collapse, he's there for me. It came to be that I was venting to him one day on the telephone about all the new medical issues that I've been having. And he said, well, I guess that means that I better come up there. So my father is fighting for me. And he'll stay with me in the apartment for at least probably 3 weeks, is my guess, before he has to return home. That will be a challenge since I am so independent. I'm not used to having anyone else in the house. I'm going to have to shut the door when I shower and when I use the bathroom. Little things like that are going to have to change. But at least he's here to help shore up what's left of me in my life. Because I don't think he wants to see all those things go too. So, I am grateful for that. That my father is willing to fight for me. I'm eternally grateful for that. And we will just have to wait and see how that goes. So I know it's a weird way to look at one's life as though it's an empire, but it really meshes the rise and fall of empires. It absolutely does. The rise and fall of, take your pick, the British, like I said, the Romans, the Nazis, anyone. I was once rising and doing well, and then falling apart, and soon to just become a memory. I know it's an odd way to see my life, but I'm such a history buff, I guess there is no way around it for me. And we shall see how much help my father brings in the coming weeks. I don't want to grow too dependent, but I also do want to take advantage of the help. That's going to be a fine line I'm going to have to maintain. But at least somebody is showing up to stay with me, to tell me I'm not all alone. So with that, I'll probably just close out this week's podcast. I know it's not very long. I've just been struggling with a lot of these issues and seeing my life kind of turn to vaporware. And the next podcast will be when my father is here. Won't that be interesting? It will be an interesting update to see how things go. Certainly will be for me, so... My guess is it'd be interesting for others. But thank you, my dear listeners, for chiming in and listening to my rambling. I'm sorry it's kind of short, perhaps lackluster. But as I said, as time progresses and it'll get worse and worse, the amount of time I can dedicate to the podcast lessons and my mental capacities also diminish, unfortunately. I've experienced that as well. And that's a terrible feeling. So wish me luck with my father's visit. I'll tune in hopefully next week with an update. And I am very grateful for you listening in to my podcast and chiming in to the bitter end. I'll try to record for as long as I can until I can't. So it's going to get interesting. And that's all I can say about that. But thank you for listening. It helps me to know that I'm not alone. And that maybe somewhere out there someone else can learn from my failures and my suffering. So please, be sure to follow the podcast and turn on notifications so you're notified of future podcasts. And if you really want to help more than ever, I implore you to go to patreon.com/mydogwilleatmyface to contribute a shekel to the podcast. So I have a means to keep this going to the bitter end. But with that said, I'll chime in next week and keep you updated. But for now, auf Wiedersehen.